welcome to Matador Memories. Today we are here with Dianah Wynter. Dianah is a professor of cinema and television arts and curator of the CSUN Cinematheque, a year-round film screening program housed in the CSUN campus. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dianah.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So let's start off. So just to start off, I would love to hear about the history of the Cinematheque, how it started, what makes it so special here.
Was started by Dr. John Schulteis, who also began the media theory and criticism major. And I really can't tell you when it started, but because it predated the millennium. So when I got to CSUN about 22 years ago, Manzanita had just been completed, and the armor was still being built, or finished, I should say. And but before that, it was in a place called the Center for Telecommunications Art. So I don't even know where that is on campus and if it still even exists. And Dr. Schulteis, he was a veteran. They sent him to college afterwards. He said, I'm just going to major in something I love. I love movies. And he just dedicated the rest of his life to film history. And so the Cinematheque was first devoted solely to a single auteur. When I came, let me see, I'm trying to think who were some of the seasons dedicated to. Antonioni, Kurosawa, Michael Powell, Ed Pressman. Let's see, who else? Saget Ray, Godard, Truffaut. I should go by countries. Ingmar Bergman. So they were, full retrospectives for 12 weeks straight of the same filmmaker. And it was very educational to be able to see a single filmmaker's body of work, or a good deal of their body of work, week after week. And so that was his vision, and he launched that. He launched the major, and then he built the Armour Theater. So Alan Armour, the Armour Theater is the Elaine and Alan Armour screening room. And it was created with $1 million grant from Elaine and Alan Armour. Alan Armour is a very established, recognized producer. He produced The Fugitive, The Untouchables, Broken Arrow, just a slew of television shows, and a couple of which became big motion pictures. And so, after he retired from being a producer and writer, he came and he taught at CSUN. And I got to meet him once because my first year here, I was presenting the Armour Scholarship Award. And so I went to his office over in Beverly Hills, and I asked him, would you consider coming to CSUN and presenting this award? And he came, and he was just very charming and very caring about the students, and it was a blessing to have him. So that's how the Cinematheque found a home in a state-of-the-art screening room. It is still a classroom. It's devoted solely to education, but it doesn't have desks that pull up from the sides or anything like that. But it's there for our education. So it's been in the Armour, I think, since 2004. I was just looking through some of my old minutes from some of the old scenes. When was the first time the Armour was mentioned? So the first set of minutes I have mentions it in 2004. And the minute said something like, we'll have to put the Cinematheque in the Center for Telecommunications. And then, anyway, from there on, it became an institution here at CSUN.
So it's been running for over 20 years now?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and every semester you guys put on a different series based on a theme, right?
Yes, we have. Now, that changed with Dr. Gateward. So Dr. Schulteis and I, we were the only full-time faculty in media theory and criticism. I actually began in television as a television professor, and he kind of whisked me over into theory and criticism. And so we were doing a search, and in walks this brilliant person named Dr. Frances Gateward. She was easily, when she arrived, the most published person on our campus. So that she was applying for this position was wonderful. And then the fact that she accepted it. I mean, after she left the room, Dr. Schulteis and I were like doing our happy dance. We were just thrilled. And so she expanded the voice of the Cinematheque. So in her first curated series, it was called She Makes Media. And it was devoted solely to women filmmakers from the beginning. So Dorothy Arzner, Ida Lupino, who's the one I really want to mention right now, Alice Guy Blaché, the very first woman filmmaker, the first filmmaker of any gender to make a narrative film in 1896, I believe. Yeah. So, and then Agnes Varda and other filmmakers, other women filmmakers in the first season that she curated. And they were also, I believe, the first women filmmakers in the Cinematheque period. So that was pretty exciting. And then after that, we had another professor here, and he curated a series of queer cinema. And that was new and very exciting. And then after that, I curated a series called Latino Tour, kind of a pun, Auteur Latino Tour. Get it?
Oh, we get it, yeah.
Can I be more obvious? And so it was Latino Tour cinema from Spain to Latin America. And we started with Almodovar, and we came to Mexico with just so many different filmmakers, Carlos Saura, Fernando Mere. It was just very exciting, and that was very well attended. That was 2019. And we've just tried to switch it up.
It sounds like there's a very large list of diverse festivals happening almost every year now. Different voices, different perspectives. Yes. Why is that so important?
Well, it's very easy to feel invisible. We are a campus that's 55% Latino students. And there was one Cinematheque. Buñuel, I know I just did Buñuel again, but there was one Cinematheque. Buñuel was first done in 2009. And we needed more representation. I said Cinematheque is about education, so we need to expand the sphere of filmmakers that we share with the public and with our students. So that's why we've expanded it. And we had to recognize women after 20 years of Cinematheque and not one woman filmmaker. There might have been. I'm trying to make myself remember Agnes Varda, but I couldn't find any evidence of her. But she was definitely in Dr. Gateward's first curated series. Movies, television, appearance in movies and television validate people.
Of course.
Maybe it shouldn't, but it does. And when you are not there, then people feel less valued, less important. So that's changing a lot, somewhat. It's not changing for elderly people. They're still pretty invisible. We still have yet to have a serious Chinese American TV series. I don't know why, but Asia's killing it on Netflix, killing it in Amazon Prime. So I think that will open up as well.
Definitely. And from your recent series, what were some series where you saw students really interested or of it being of high popularity?
Well, after the pandemic, I asked Professor Baccio, who's a cinematographer. He's the first production faculty to curate a Cinematheque. Because I wasn't still in television when I began to curate. I was already in theory. So he is the first production faculty member to curate a Cinematheque. And his series was horror, the horror genre, called All the Things That Frighten You. And, he consulted me about the films that he wanted to show. I didn't really interfere too much, and I presented one of the films, one of the classic films, the vampire Dracula movie, and but it was all his, and he really brought the Cinematheque back to life after the pandemic, after it being closed for a couple of years, and he did a great job.
That's cool. I didn't know there was it sounds like a Halloween theme to kind of. I can see why it would be popular. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean horror. One of my students wrote in their homework they like horror movies because horror movies are less scary than what's happening now in real life, and that really kind of took my breath away. So I think there's something really important about horror films. It helps us strengthen our inner core to deal with, some of the terrible things that we have to deal with in real life.
So jumping off how they were able to revive it after COVID, I also see how sometimes filmmakers or people featured in these films come to do a Q&A session or speak with the students. Has that always been a thing, or is that more recent? It's more recent. I would say, I would go back to Dr. Gateward again. She had one panel during the She Makes Media series of film critics, of women film critics. And that was really eye-opening and exciting. It was nice to know that there were actually women at Rotten Tomatoes, not just the same bunch of guys. She had someone from the LA Times. I think that's what really kicked it off. Now, every now and then, Dr. Schulteis would do something really surprising. He screened Dead Presidents. It just happened that the Hughes brothers, one of the Hughes brothers was his next door neighbor in Tarzana, and they got to talking, and so he screened Dead Presidents, and we had one of the Hughes brothers here for the Q&A.
What a big get.
Yeah, it really was. So it was kind of sporadic in the early years. When the John Singleton exhibit opened, and that followed the gallery exhibit, that was truly an amazing acquisition. I knew him slightly. I knew the woman that ran his company, Sheila Ward, through an artist friend, a mutual artist. So I'd see her at like soirees and things like that, art soirees. And after, her period of grieving, she was at this medical gala that I and our mutual friends were at. We were at the same table. And, asked her the usual question, how are you doing? How are things going? And I switched the seating cards so I could sit next to her. And she laughed. She thought, it was like, oh my God, I made her laugh. This is so great. And so she laughed, and we started talking. She said, oh, I got to rent storage space. And I said, what do you got to rent storage space for? Well, John had these enormous posters. I said, what kind of enormous posters? Well, there's one in Italian. It's Citizen Kane, and it's 6 feet tall. And then she started describing all of these posters that he collected that had special meaning for him when he was making his films. And I said, well, hold off on the storage. I think I have a place for your gallery. And it just happened at that time that the Gallery of Film Poster Art had just been painted and there was no exhibit in there. And I went and talked to the dean, and he was like, yes, yes, yes. And went to talk to the chair at the time, Thelma Vickroy, yes, yes, yes.
And what year was this?
It was 2019.
Okay.
It was the year he died.
I remember I'm reading about this a little bit.
Yeah. So we started moving the stuff out, moving the posters over here. I laid out the wall plan of what's going to go where. We got that up on the wall. I wrote all the caption sheets. And I was going over to the Skirball a lot because they had a Kubrick photography exhibit. And I looked at what they were doing for signage. And we'd never done anything like that. And I said, we're going to do that. We're going to do that stenciling and the things on the wall and the big banners. And, the people in the art department really came through, did all the stenciling. And it was, a really exciting exhibit. It took us to another level. Which was difficult because we have all these, foreign classic posters from Stephen Olson and Brian Light, all these magnificent collections. So that opened right before lockdown. Right before lockdown, the exhibit opened. And when we were able to leave our apartment and put on real clothes, we did the horror film, and then right after that we did John Singleton and the auteurs that inspired him. And that was great because so many students didn't know his work.
Yeah.
I mean, they know Snowfall, but right now he's a classic filmmaker.
Yeah.
Boys in the Hood is 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago. So it was very exciting to curate that. And some of his filmmakers, cinematographer came from the one with Janet Jackson, Poetic Justice. Cinematographer came. Then for, I think it was Too Fast, Too Furious, which is my favorite. I know. My favorite John Singleton movie. Yeah. But his sound designer came and he designed all the car rumblings and the pings and all of those things. So he came and those really packed the houses, because we have all of these film students who want to know how it's done. And so I would say that's where it really took off. And then with Buñuel this past spring, it became, just took on a life of its own when one of our students was working at the Buñuel Institute, and the head of Buñuel Institute had a Google alert. And he did his daily Google alert search, and there was our Cinematheque. And got an email, and then he came every week with all of these personal stories about his life with Buñuel, collecting, knowing his son, knowing his family, having his ashes. I mean, it was just extraordinary, and he was just so charming and lively. So just getting to sit next to him and talk to him every week was just exhilarating. So now the bar is set there.
Yeah.
So we will be continuing that.
So it sounds like when you choose these series, they really do make an impact on people's perspective on film or teaches them something. So when it comes to planning, what are some things that you take into consideration? Or do you kind of have a goal set, or you try to switch it up? What's kind of your process there?
I do try to switch it up. At some point, we are going to go back to a Cinematheque that just features one filmmaker or one or two filmmakers. But right now, I'm trying to share as much classic and new cinema and new artists and classic artists that people don't know with as many people as possible. And what's really wonderful about the Cinematheque is that it's open to the public. So it's the entire CSUN community. It's the students and the staff and the faculty, and then all our neighbors from Northridge and Tarzana, Encino, Woodland Hills. They come and they some of them feel like they're in college again, and they love to participate in the discussions or just listen because we've got a great speaker. And I'm just really proud of where it's come in terms of that.
Interesting.
Definitely.
I'm curious. For many people who attend this film festival, is it their first time ever attending a film festival? I mean, just on a personal level, I've never been to one.
Well, you got to come.
I'm very curious. So, with that being said, how often do people go to these to Cinematheque, and it's the first time?
Yeah, it is kind of rare. You have to know about it, so there's a certain circle of exposure. And I think for many students, it's their first time going to a festival like this or a series. It's the kind of series they have at the Met regularly or at Lincoln Center regularly. And then John Schulteis had a vision that it would be happening here. And, we're going to keep that legacy going for as long as this university's here.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So for you personally, what do you find to be the most rewarding part of running this film festival?
It's a lot of work. I can't tell you. But it's the audiences. That's the rewarding part. We tend to do Black History Month films. This year, we did 2 weeks of films by Robert Townsend. And he's a friend of Professor Thomas's, so he actually was here both weeks. The first night, we were showing his groundbreaking film, Hollywood Shuffle. And it was pouring rain. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's going to be an empty house. We've got Robert Townsend, it's going to be an empty house. And so when we queued it up and when we opened the doors, it was a throng of people. People from the community got in their cars or grabbed their umbrellas and they came, and Robert Townsend came. And, everybody was just so hungry for laughter. And so we screened Hollywood Shuffle. It was nonstop laughter. And then Robert came, and the audience leapt to their feet. I've never seen that at a Cinematheque. They were just so appreciative for laughter and for, as they say, dying is easy, comedy is hard. And he brought them laughter. And our college actually had a theme that year, and it was Black labor. And I knew that there was a film that he made that really dealt with that. It was about the unionizing of the Pullman porters. And no one ever heard of this movie. I saw it once in 2002 when it premiered on Showtime. And that was the only time I saw it. And it has resonated with me ever since. So I said, well, this is a movie about Black labor. And Robert Townsend, we have him. And it was one of the few times, if ever, that he saw it projected on a big screen.
Really?
Yeah. And the audience came back, and it was very moving. It was very moving to see that film on a big screen. Charles Dutton and Andre Braugher and, all these Brock Peters. It was just a crazy, crazy kind of cast. And that kicked off, and then right after we segued into Buñuel, and the momentum just kept going.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's been just a lot of growth in the last few years for this.
Yeah.
And just a lot of different aspects to it, a lot of people coming in, a lot of important people coming in.
Yes,
That's great.
It's been great. It's been great. And, our faculty, most of them are filmmakers, and they have relationships. I came in as a TV director, and I'm still a DGA member, and our department has expanded because of those of us who have those relationships.
Yeah. I actually did attend a Hollywood Shuffle screening.
Oh, so you were there.
I was there, and I remember how the crowd was so lively. Like, people were laughing, they were cheering, especially when he came out. It was really fun.
What a moment.
And he's such a great storyteller as well, the way he tells his background. Yeah.
And he was there. It was like, I am here for the students.
Exactly.
And he gave all these inspirational anecdotes, and he got up and he was walking around and he answered Q&A, and he had to leave, but he couldn't make himself leave. And
Yeah.
he stayed, so students got to come up and talk to him personally afterwards. And a lot of people were in the audience. He saw some of his idols, like, oh my God, Frida Payne's in the house. And, it was just truly an
Yeah.
exciting night. So, yes, we had to live up to that for the rest of the
Definitely, yeah.
And the Buñuel Institute helped us do that.
Yeah. So given that CSUN has such a notable film program, what would you say like the film culture on campus is like? Does that really help the Cinematheque? Or do you kind of see more of an audience to like other students or members of the community?
I've been seeing more faculty outside of our college coming, and more of the community. Our students are just so busy.
They are.
They're, have you been down the end of Manzanita? It's like a farmer's market down there.
Yeah.
They're selling cookies. They're selling cake. They're selling everything. Now they're selling dry goods to raise money for their films. So sometimes we don't really see our students, but when there's something they really want to see, they are there. They came out for the Scribes on the Silver Screen series, which was adaptations. And that was really interesting for them to come for that. They came out for the sci-fi, Are You a Replicant? What was that called? Are You a Replicant? VFX Sci-Fi and the Meaning of Life. And
That's cool.
yeah, so we showed sci-fi films every week, and that was very well attended as well. Very philosophical.
I do have to ask, as we're talking about film and filmmaking in a general sense, this comes at a time where feels like film is going under its own personal changes. There's different mediums, people, talking about the future of film. We always ask that.
Yeah.
And I had a talk, it might have been with your colleague, Nate Thomas, about, our movie theater is going to be here in the next 10 years. He gave a positive look.
Yeah.
But how are events like this bringing the conversation and topic of film back to the forefront? Why is it important to have this every year? I'd like to know.
I feel it's important because it brings our university closer to the community that surrounds us, and it brings the community that surrounds us closer to our students.
Right.
We count on them. We count on them for donations. We count on them for their tax dollars, and they really care. There's the Arts Council, and we send a faculty member over a few times a semester to talk about film, and they come out. They come to the films, they send it out on their email lists, and they're very appreciative. I know there was one person that wanted to come to my classes, and I had to say, well, you really can't do that. But it made him feel like he was back in college and having those dialogues about film and auteurs, and it's a great feeling, It's a great feeling.
So what are some new innovations what new innovations do you kind of hope to explore in the coming years for the Cinematheque?
Well, one thing that we have been trying to get our apparatus for deaf students. Just raising it, they're really expensive, and Joel Krantz, who's head of sound, is really championing that push. It started when I was chair, and that's really important right now.
Yeah.
That's why doing a Latino tour was so important, because most of the films had subtitles, and so the deaf students came into those films.
Really?
Yeah, but that's something that we're really pushing for. And this coming season, we're going to do Women Filmmakers again, because for the first time, a classic woman filmmaker will be in our Hollywood Foreign Press gallery. So if you've been in there, it's film noir, westerns, foreign posters. And the collector, Brian Light, really went out of his way to find a collection of Ida Lupino's films. And so it's in the center of the hallway. And we have a whole new collection as well. But we're going to have, we're going to do a real unveiling. And that also came from a contribution from a charity called Care Solace. And they kind of gave us the money to really make that happen.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I think that's going to be a very popular one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. So just to kind of wrap it up, overall, what do you think, what kind of impact would you say that film makes for creativity, community, storytelling, or anything of that sort?
Well, it's different now. If I was watching something special, everybody in the country was watching it at the same time. Right now, that's pretty much reserved for the World Series and the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's when we're all watching at the same time. But it's still a material that we can talk about.
Yeah.
And we're at a place right now that is unheard of, where anybody can make a movie. The camera on your phone is more powerful than the camera I shot my MFA thesis with. And I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
So the playing field is level. It is as flat as it can get. It just takes passion and creativity. And then distribution is, the doors are wide open. People are posting things on TikTok and Instagram and becoming famous and monetizing. It's a whole new world.
Yeah.
I thought it was a whole new world a few years ago when the filmmaking engine was no longer the Hollywood studios, when it became, Silicon Valley with Apple and Netflix and Amazon. Those were all tech companies. And now they are the big movie makers. Netflix just bought Warner Brothers. And it was bidding between Paramount and Netflix, and I'm glad it's not two giant behemoth studios merging together, because then that would really dilute the voice of the films that would be coming out. So yeah, it's a brave new world.
It's a lot of changes. Yeah, definitely.
And we can see what the changes are.
Yeah.
We also have to deal with AI. SAG recently came to some sort of an agreement. The president of SAG is Bryan Cranston. And so he made some sort of an agreement with OpenAI. The Writers Guild, they did the strike in order to put in safeguards for the writers so that their work couldn't just be scraped from the internet and rehashed. And so we'll see how that goes. We, CTVA, we want our students to be on the winning side of AI. So we are launching our first course in AI this spring.
Wow.
It's called Cinematic Storytelling with Gen AI, taught by a VFX specialist. And anybody can take it. I mean, it's screenwriters, directing students. It's open. And it's a test case.
That's interesting.
It's a test case, but we have hopes for it that it'll put our students on the winning side of AI.
Yeah,
It's important to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
You got to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
Get out in front of it. Absolutely.
it's a really interesting class. Thank you for joining us on Matador Memories. See you next time. Thank you.